Hello, everyone, and welcome to this beautiful Monday, wherever you are joining us from on Adobe Live. My name is James Bonanno, and I am joined today by the very talented, just multi-talented, faceted digital artist, self-portrait photographer, Holly Rose Stones. Holly, welcome to Adobe Live again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. It's so nice to do
Absolutely.
this again. Love it. Can't
Yes,
wait.
I am so excited. I mean, as anyone who's joining us, you can already see we are going to be getting into some amazing color and just some amazing tips and tricks from Holly inside of Photoshop. But before we get started, I just want to let everyone know thank you for joining us here on Adobe Live and for being a part of the Adobe Live community. As always, we love to have you here. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and all the socials for the latest updates, all the things. Welcome, Oliver. Welcome, Cody Bear, Jose, Mike. The whole gang is here. Christian, it's so wonderful to have everyone here. And as if you're new to this format, I will be moderating the chat over here on Behance while Holly takes us through her workflow today in Photoshop. But before we get started, Holly, why don't you just introduce?
Yeah, it's something that I've wanted to do for a while because I've always been into Photoshop and I've done this about 15, 16 years now, but the past 4 years I've really like honed in on my style. So yeah, I kind of wanted to bring like real life and Photoshop together, if that makes any sense. But I feel like creating a set in the studio and then finishing it in Photoshop just gives me, yeah, it just excites me. So yeah, this is the color project. I've worked on green, which was the first one, then blue, obviously with the telephone, pink, and I've done yellow. And then I've worked on some sort of individual ones as well in the background, just as I was getting inspiration. Um,
So it's
so
just so cool to look
yeah,
at.
thank you. I also have started obviously working with Generative Fill recently, which I fell in love with. And it kind of brings again like the fun aspect of creating the sets and doing the photo shoot in the studio and then open it up into Photoshop and having like the AI element added in. It just feels like it gives like an extra like magical like essence. So yeah, I decided today that I'm going to be working on a project called Homegrown. This is a project that I've been thinking about working on for a here we are so far. This is what we're going to be working on. Yeah, this is a project that I've been working on. Well, I'd say 6 months. So my projects and photography has always been about like, well, I've always used it as a form of like therapy and mental. It's kind of been a crutch in a way sometimes for my mental health. It's just something that I've turned to keep me sane in a way, or also like putting my thoughts and feelings into an image, and it makes me feel better to see it visually, because I do have a lot of like vivid dreams as well. So
Mm,
over the years, it's just been a really nice avenue and way to put myself into my work. And
I love
naturally,
that.
I've always just turned the camera on myself just because it was always easy when I was like 14, 15, experimenting. Um, it was easier just to turn it on myself, and then I just got used to that. And it's also, yeah, like I say, a form of therapy, self-reflection, and all that kind of thing. So this project is about for the past 6 months, basically, I've been loving another form of mental health therapy for me is gardening. So
Love that.
I've been working on a project called Homegrown where I create my own flowers in the garden, and it kind of coincides with the whole set prop making, but I've created it in the garden. That's what I feel anyway.
I love
So
that. I love that.
yeah, so I've decided today to edit it. This is not the full final image, but I'm almost there with it. But I want to go through a few stages. So I'm going to be doing like frequency separation, so retouching, and also like using Gen Fill to expand backgrounds, add in the bugs, because in fact, all of these bugs are generative fill.
Isn't that that's it's still so crazy. And I think the way that your work looks, just as stylized and creative as it is and colorful as it is, I feel like generative fill fits so well for your work because you know that it has this like imaginative style, but at first glance you may not actually think that. It may just look
Yeah,
like it was part of the photo.
that's kind of what I have thought about when I've been doing the sets and the set building, is that I think well, I want to make it look like it's fake, but also real. I want it to be real, but make it look like I've edited it in Photoshop.
Very cool.
So generative fill has been that like add-on would look like. So I might take that away just for now.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a question before you get
yeah,
started, Holly?
yeah.
So for your process, first of all, everyone is loving the colors. They're just loving your
Oh, thank
style.
you.
We do have one quick question from Alexander
Yes,
about
yeah.
like how you afforded to make that studio yourself. You had mentioned, did you rent a studio? Did you build your own studio? Like tell us that process just a little bit before you
So
get started.
yeah, of course. My we moved house, we relocated in the pandemic, just literally when we went into lockdown. We ended up moving back to my parents' house. So we are currently living with my parents, and it's been 3 to 4 years now. But it's kind of little nice little community we've got going on. My granddad lives next door, and it's just a nice little community. But my parents have like outbuildings, and obviously during the pandemic, income went nothing, and we was like, right, what can I do? I'll just try and renovate this studio on a budget. And it used to be my granddad's workshop, and it's actually an old pigsty. It must be 200 years old.
Wow.
So it's very wonky, which is why it's called the Wonky Studio. The floor is but I couldn't afford to do it at the time. And I just thought, I just want to get in. So I painted the floor. We put this roof up and put some doors in, just some ones that we found. And it was just kind of like, just we'll put it together. And then my granddad also helped me quite a lot with it. So yeah, it was very much on a budget. And then obviously we've been in there. I've been in there ever since. But me and my partner actually renovated it together. So yeah, I do have an Instagram for that. It's called the Wonky Studio. If you want to go have a look at that.
Yeah, definitely go check that out, everyone in the chat.
You can see the renovation process, but there's a lot of things that I would do different now. But obviously times have changed and we've moved on. But
Sure.
yeah, so since obviously having that studio, I was like, I just want to get in and, just really like dive into the ideas that I've had in my brain for years, but not had the space to do and the freedom to do it. So yeah, and I also, obviously with affording it, I shoot weddings as well. So that's kind of like where, well, obviously we're doing creative things and shooting creative things and working with brands and things like that. I do weddings as well. So that's kind of like the bread and butter of what I do.
Very cool. Well, I just want to let everyone know in the chat too, Holly, I know you have a ton to work on today, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but that's such a huge point. I think it's very,
definitely.
It's a misconception that, in order to have this studio space and create the beautiful work that you have, you need to have lots of money and huge set design and production, but really it comes from your brain of what you want to create, and you've chipped away at it and used your resources. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, when we obviously lived in a different part of the country, we actually, I used to just do it in my bedroom. So it was just kind of like wherever, any space that I could use to do it. But yeah, so I think, I'll get cracking with this one.
Cool.
Let me just double check. Oh, my Wacom tablet has decided to stop working.
Classic.
So we might have to.
That always likes to happen.
Yeah, that's very. I don't know what's happened with that. No, we're gonna have to do it with the finger on the trackpad. Okay, so I like to start with an image which is quite, well, especially when I'm shooting portrait. This is shot just in the studio, bright light above, octobox with a reflector underneath. And I like to shoot with the idea that I'm going to do it in about, I think it's 8x10. So I always crop 8x10.
Gotcha.
And then because actually I'm going to take this into Photoshop Beta or Beta. Let's open that up.
And for those that are wanting to use Generative Fill at this current moment, you have to be using the beta version, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So
that will change at some point.
Let me just close that so I can save that. So if I just do the crop, and then you can just generative expand, and I'm just going to see where this takes me. I've already obviously expanded it once, but just want to see what it does, which is what I usually do at the moment. I'm just kind of like seeing how it comes out, and then I go in and like twist it, like make some tweaks.
Yeah, it's a fun way to experiment with it, honestly.
I mean, that worked.
Yeah,
that worked. So that's what I do for the background. And because I want my face to sort of be in the middle of the canvas here, I'm going to just group them together and just expand this just a little bit and move that down a bit, because obviously I know where I've already gone with this. So the decision-making process has kind of already been done, but I just play around with like location. Sometimes I bring in, I'm not sure actually if I've got it in this beta, sorry about that. I think I've not got the ruler on, but I usually bring the ruler in and
Gotcha.
make a obviously the middle point and find that. I should have been prepared with the ruler, but to be fair, with Photoshop beta, I'm not always in it. I'm usually back and forth. So we've got that. Okay, so we've expanded the background. I'm just going to save that and just pop it into.
Was it a conscious decision for you to wear? It looks like you're wearing the exact
Yes.
same turtleneck as your. I was gonna say, just
Yeah.
creativity has no bounds.
I was like, what do I put on today? And then I thought, oh, I'll just wear the orange top. I'm
Right.
actually working as well on a project, a new project for the color project, which is the orange project. So I
Cool.
decided, obviously, I've got this in the. I'm going to be using it soon. So,
Sweet. Very cool.
okay, this is taking a little while, but I'll just open it back up into Photoshop.
So are you currently sort of just working back and forth between beta and the full version just based on
Yes,
your
just
workflow?
yeah. Majority of this was actually edited in beta, but I've actually just, because I've opened all the files here at the top, thought I'd
Gotcha.
just bring it back just for ease and time. I'm just going to see if my Wacom is working again. Oh no, it's not. Right, okay, so this will be fun. So obviously this is the working, the one that I've got to, the final sort of image. I'm not quite there yet, but I really wanted to take photos of all the individual flowers from my garden and play again. And this is what inspired me, obviously cutting them, having cut flowers, and then seeing them in the vase. I was like, that's kind of what the shape that I want it to be. So what I'll do is I usually just open up the lasso tool. Doesn't really matter at this point. I kind of just go in and I'm sorry, I've just because I've got no Wacom at the minute.
I
So
know this is the true live version. When stuff goes
yeah.
wrong, you're just like, I don't want to use my trackpad.
It's been working all day and then all of a sudden it's
Of
not
course it has.
working.
Hey, this happens. You have to just
Yes,
work with it on the fly and
exactly.
um,
Yeah. So I then just paste this into the image. And what I do at this stage is kind of just like paste it in kind of where I might want it. I go through I'm just going to close that one for now. So we've got loads of different flowers that I've been creating for the past 6 months. And it's nice that actually this has come at this point because I was ready to shoot this because of all the flowers blooming.
they're beautiful,
Um,
by the way. They're absolutely gorgeous.
oh, thanks. I'm so proud of it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like double artwork here, which is so cool. We have a garden that does not look like this. We try to, um,
Yeah.
but this looks
I
beautiful.
think it takes a lot of time, and I obviously with my job can spend a lot of time doing it, especially in like February, March, April, May, kind of like the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
you want to be planting everything. So
Right.
yeah, so I'm going to get the Magic Wand tool, which I use personally for things where I know that it's going to cut out quite well because it's on a background which might cut out. This particular image here, the one with the sort of like leaves. I think it's called a smoke bush actually.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of like a bit darker, so it might not cut out properly. But I just go in roughly and pop on a mask and just have it there ready to position. I like to position everything in place before I actually really go in and edit all the details. And I think sometimes, well, people do it a lot differently, but I just like to know that I'm not wasting my time editing
Yeah.
any of the elements.
Mm.
um so yeah, the so that
Uh,
one is just roughly there, I think it
as
was.
you're placing these, Holly, I had a question just sort of from the
Yes.
photography side of things of how
Yeah.
you decide placement of like you're directing yourself, right, as a portrait photographer. So
Yes.
the technical thing, obviously you have it on a timer, but in terms of figuring out placement of your face and direction to your posing, like do you try a lot of different poses or do
Yeah.
you just kind of
So
know what you want?
I will show you quickly. So this is kind of in the studio. I'll get the ones that I kind of liked the most. So this is, I wanted to be onto one side because I kind of like the angle of that, especially with my body. So I did try, I think, with a very straight on one, but I don't think I've got it here. But I knew that I wanted it to have a little bit of an angle so that I could use like my hair because of the hair shape.
Right, right.
So I kind of went through and just did loads of, and I shoot
Cool.
with a tether table with my MacBook on it, so I can literally see what's going on. So I'll just press the, shutter, because I have a Sony camera, so I use like the Imaging Edge, I think it's called Imaging Edge
Okay.
apps, and then I just literally I can change all the settings on there, and it's really easy. I find it really easy now. When I'm shooting my big wide stuff, sometimes my partner will help me. And sometimes I'll just shoot it again with my laptop and I'll just run back and forth, which is a bit of a pain, but it's not
Yeah,
as, but it is what it is. I've been
sure.
doing this for a long time now, so I feel like I know how to pose and position
Right.
my body.
And how fast to run back and forth to the
Yeah,
laptop.
yeah. I usually do it on about a 2 second timer,
Right.
or maybe 5, depending on how far away the laptop is. Um, and I've been trying to do it with like bursts, but I might need to upgrade my lighting because it's not quite bursting enough.
Gotcha.
So I think I need to, that's my next sort of like upgrade. So yeah, that one actually worked pretty well there. I'm obviously at this point, I know where I'm positioning it because I've spent so long with working on this one. I know where I wanted it. So this is, again, a case of just positioning and playing around with it.
Man, what kind of flower is that? That's gorgeous.
This is I think it's called a red and white Fabuki, which is it's like a dahlia, the dahlia family,
Wow.
which is my favorite. I think this one is my favorite at the moment.
Yeah, that almost looks like it's filled already because
Yeah,
it doesn't look real. I looked at that, I'm like, wait a minute, that's a real
is that the
flower.
real? Yeah. Oh, so I'm just going to, oops. I mean, obviously, I'll go back in later and just fill
Sure.
all this back in. But again, like I say, I am one for just going with it, and then I'll just go and spend 20 hours
Well, do
cutting
you
it
find
all out.
you probably find, I mean, I guess just workflow and process, and you've been doing this, we were talking earlier, you said for about 15
Yeah,
years. I mean, does it help to speed your workflow up to do it this way and then get
yeah,
into the, rather than maybe it holds you up in some way if you go
yeah.
piece by piece?
I kind of get a bit bored if I'm going piece by piece because I know I've done it multiple times in the past where I've edited or cut out an object and then I've completely discarded it. It's taken me 3 hours. And I'm also one for, like, I think I turned to photography because I think I mentioned it when I was on with Anna last time about painting. I used to be like, I loved painting, but it ended up being not quick enough for me. I wanted it there and then. So I feel like I'm a bit very impatient creator. So I just like, I just want to throw it all at the canvas and then I can just go in and I know confidently that it's worked.
Right.
Otherwise, I get a bit like, oh, I don't know if this is working.
Yeah.
So I just sort of throw it all in. So yeah, this is just,
Love that. Well, you have so many creative ideas too. You just have to get it out. And I feel like
yes.
anyone who's joining the stream and has seen your work previously, like can tell that you have stories to tell and an amazing imagination. So sometimes you just have to throw it all at it and
Yeah.
let the imagination do the work.
So I don't know if it depends. Well, people who followed me for a while that might know that I did like a 7-day self-portrait challenge. And that was like, I did it for like years, must have been about 3 to 4 years. Just before the pandemic, I think I stopped doing it in 2020. And it was basically every single day I would create an image and upload it. And also I did a behind the scenes video on YouTube and uploaded that as well. So the same day,
Wow.
shot, edit, I even edited a video. So I would be so like, I like to be quick with things.
Yeah.
Otherwise I get a bit, but like I said, I get a bit bored. I get a bit like, oh, is this working? I don't want to spend too much time on it. That being said, I've taught myself, especially with the set building now, to be more patient, to see where my creativity could go, because I felt like I think I got a bit too quick. I was a bit like, what could what am I limiting myself for by doing it so fast? Let's see how much I could create. So I think that's when, like, I'll go back to the sets. Like the telephone took me 3 months to make.
Wow.
The
Wow.
green set I think was about 6 to 8 weeks. I was conceptualizing from creating. I mean, I knew I could have done it in a week, but because I was like, no, just let the idea flow and see what you can do with it, and sometimes the ideas pop literally into my head on the day, and I'm like, if I had not waited, then don't know where this could have gone.
That's such
I
an
suppose that's the
interesting.
beauty with the creative.
Yeah, well, it's such a interesting point for every creative out there, whether they're in Photoshop or filmmaker or designer, whatever it is. There is a point of like done is better than perfect, but it depends. Oh, it's only up to you to decide when that point
Yes,
is too. And you can only really get to that point, as you said, by just continuing to repeat the process and learn from your own process and get
exactly.
more and more
Yeah,
creative along the way too.
I think that's exactly what because I was so used to doing an image a day, and I'd knock it out, and then I'd be creatively satisfied. I got to the
Right.
point like where I was like, no, I kind of just, I don't know if I want to be so quick now. But then like we were saying, obviously with this process, I'll leave that one because I've done that one. With this process of me like positioning it all first and then deciding, obviously later, I just know that that's the way that I can work now. I think when you do it so many times over the
Yeah,
period of 15 years, you know exactly where to take it.
absolutely.
So
Holly,
this is,
you're about 20 minutes in, just to give
yeah,
you a
okay,
kind of
lovely.
gauge of where you're at.
So that's actually perfect timing, because the next thing that I was going to do, so obviously I mean, this is looking all over the place at the moment, but we're going to go on to some frequency separation. I like to usually do this right at the end, but with the flowers being on my face, I kind of wanted to edit the complexion first. I don't tend to do too much on complexion, but I'm going to just show you how I would do that in terms of like dodging and burning and yeah, doing some frequency separation. So I'll just take the flowers off. So obviously I've got all the flowers in place, and yeah, this is where I would go, what kind of skin do I want to portray at this moment? With this image, I'm very much against not being too overly edited on my pictures. I'd never edit the size of my body, I never edit the size of my face, I never edit my features. But I don't mind doing a bit of skin smoothing because I feel like it enhances. I'll just show you on the working one. I feel like it enhances the studio portrait. I don't know. It's just personal preference for me. But like I say, I don't tend to just edit my features. And even with this one, I can tell I'm objectively looking at this because obviously, I'm subjectively looking at it because it's me. But I try and objectively look at it and just go, what can I make better with this being a model, not me. I kind of disconnect from it. It's a little bit strange actually.
That's amazing that you can do that. And I think a lot of artists, photographers can't do that. And the fact that you're a self-portrait artist, you've probably gotten pretty good at that. Um,
Yeah, I obviously definitely have insecurities when it comes to shooting, and I know my angles. But again, it's just part of my process of self-development, self-healing over the course of 15 years with self-portraiture.
sure, sure.
So I actually have I don't know if I can say this, but the Retouching Academy toolbar. So I use this for all my frequency separation, but I'm going to show how to do like a frequency separation. There's obviously many tutorials of this, but I tend to just duplicate my background 3 times, and then you click the middle layer, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then I kind of, in fact, let's just see if I can.
And Holly, for those that I'm assuming most people in the chat know roughly what frequency separation, like what its purpose is, but just for
Yes,
the context of what it is and why you're using it.
of course, yeah. So it's basically to smooth tones of skin out. And obviously when you're working with, I mean, I'm not a makeup artist. I don't know what, I've worked in makeup years ago, but and I know very like briefly what I can do to like, just enhance my face essentially. But again, it's my personal preference on what I'm doing this, and obviously it's my art, so I can pop that into there. But I like to just smooth out the areas where it might just be a bit not the, I suppose, yeah, just not the right look.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, so you blur the middle one, and then you image, apply, and you subtract. If I go to that layer, I've got so many layers here, as you can tell. And you subtract. I obviously didn't come up with this. I don't know why these are the numbers, but that's the numbers that I use.
Okay.
And then you linear line, and it essentially just flattens the image back to what it was.
Gotcha.
So obviously my Wacom tablet's not working, but so it might be a bit all over the place this, but I like to do frequency separation like, well, there's many different ways you can do it, but I like to use the mixer brush. And this is something I've learned probably past like year or so, but it's just changed the way that I've used or smoothed skin. So if I click on the back, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cheat and do the frequency separation toolbar. Just because that's how I work usually, but that's just
Cool.
essentially that's the basic. I'll just pop that into a album, but you can obviously, there's loads of tutorials on how to do this. So I go on to the low frequency, which is essentially the blurred background or blurred layer, and I pop on in fact what I do is I'll duplicate that layer, oops, do that again, duplicate that layer, and create a clipping mask so that I can have have the control of the layer, so I can put the opacity down if I need to. So what I tend to do is I'll just go in with the mixer tool, and these, if you can see on the screen, everyone out there, these are the what's the called? What are they called? The values that I
Yeah,
use.
yeah.
And this is what I found is perfect for this. So I tend to just go in. You're probably not going to be able to see. I'm
Yeah,
going
you
to
can.
overkill it so you can see what I'm
I
doing.
can definitely see that. There's certainly a nice smoothness that's happening right around the nose, and
Yeah, so I tend to, obviously, when I've got my Wacom tablet working, you just kind of click an area and move it around a little bit, and then click another area. I don't think you can tell that I'm double clicking here, but you kind of just move it around a little bit, and it kind of just smooths it out. I am going overkill. Like there, I've just dragged it too much there, so I'm just going to go back a bit. And then
well,
I actually, sorry.
well, I was gonna say, I mean, it already looks so nice because it was lit so well too. I feel like part of that is just having that soft lighting that you were talking about, having that like nice, like octa
But
softbox
yeah,
above you with a reflector below gives you that soft light already. So I feel like for kind of smoothing that skin, it's not like you're taking harsh lighting and then like painting over that.
paint it. Yeah, I think that's like, yeah, I've always worked. Oh well, I used to work with just natural light until I worked in the studio. So literally over the past 4 years, I've been doing studio work. But I think I really wanted to do studio. I just wasn't confident enough. So now I've got confident with it. I know how to light my face to make it, just enhance the eye. I'll
Sure.
just zoom in so you can see. So you can see here, that's the catch light. It's about a 1.5 meter octabox, I think. And then you can see just there's my camera, which I'll probably will edit that out a little bit because I don't tend to like the camera being in, because I don't want it to, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I don't like that in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just smoothed that out a little bit. Again, I would spend, 3 to 4 hours on smoothing skin, but just so you can see where I'm going with that. So then after I've smoothed the skin, I tend to go into the opacity and just bring it down so you can see. If I just go before and after, you can see how much that's changed. I mean, some areas are a bit dodgy where I've just done it quickly, but I tend to just knock it down to about 70% ish, 80%. And then I'll go into the texture layer and just go in and maybe take away any of but I don't tend to like to take texture away because I don't want it to be so smooth that it looks fake.
Right.
But yeah, and maybe I'll take away like the hair there, and I'd probably do this again. I'm using my trackpad, so it's really hard.
I'm pretty impressed with the fact that you're using your trackpad.
No, it's not. I don't know why that's not working. Anyway, so yeah, I would go around and just take maybe any like flyaway hairs off. That's probably too much of a selection, but trackpad, I can't do anything about it. So yeah, just go in and have a bit of a play. Okay, and then I would go to, let's see, I'd probably get a dodge and burn. So if I go to my actions, I get it's just a fill a grey. Actually, no, sorry, it isn't. I've got an action for dodge and burn, and it's essentially just a layer with you can see it there, the curves down a little bit. And that's for burn, and obviously then for dodge. And I tend to not go too complicated with all this. I just like to add in a bit of, definitely not that. Add in a soft round brush and I like to overkill it and then take away just because it makes me feel like I know where I'm doing it then, and I can play around the opacity again. But I tend to just like, with me having a fringe at the moment, eyebrows I would darken a little bit, but obviously they're hidden. Maybe like just chin, and then just like down the nose a little bit. But then again, that might be a bit too much, so I just lower the opacity. But you have this action that you've created that you'll sort of apply anytime you're dodging and burning, and then you'll just continue to take that down rather than like starting from scratch with a new dodge and burn layer. Yeah, sometimes if I'm happy with the dodge or burn, and then later on I'm like, oh, that could just do with it being a tiny little bit lighter, I'll add in another layer. And so I'll just layer them up a little bit. But I do one of my final things that I usually do, but I'm going to do it now just to show everyone what I like to do at the very end is do a highlights. So this is, in fact, I'll do it manually. So if we go into, sorry, I don't know where the adjustments is. There we go. If I go to selective color, and then I go to whites, and if I take the black down to the left, all the way, minus 100. And as you can see, it's overkilled you can see it's highlighted it a lot, but I quite like this look at the moment. I like the over highlighted look, but I'm just going to go in with a soft brush on the layer and just take away some of and I like to keep it on the nose, on the Cupid's bow here, and a little bit up, and on my chin, a little bit on the cheekbones, and also the hair. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like before and after. And then I'll take it out of the eye, because I think we'll work on eyes later if we've got time, because they're a whole different ball game. But sure. So yeah, that's kind of like one of my final things, and I usually do that at the very end so it highlights everything in the image.
Gotcha.
But just to pop it in there. And also, actually, sometimes I put the black and white layer on so you can see where the highlight is. But the next thing that I was going to do, so that's kind of just like basic what I would do for frequency separation and for the like retouching side of things. But I'm going to bring back in fact, if I,
Holly, when you started retouching years ago, do you feel like or like, do you look back at old work now and cringe on, oh my God, why did I do that?
yeah. And do you know what it is? Because like you said earlier, with the studio work now, it's so much easier to retouch it. Whereas I used to work with obviously quite a lot of natural light, and I feel like sometimes natural light is not so forgiving with,
Sure.
especially when you can't control it. So I used to just like really heavily retouch, and it was just too much. Yeah, if I
Yeah.
look back now, it is cringe.
Well, I definitely admire just the skills that you have to retouch, because as a photographer myself, I definitely rely more on natural light, and I find it
Yeah,
a struggle sometimes if I'm not shooting studio work to retouch a face.
yeah. I think because now I'm in studio so much and pretty much all the time now, I've got so used to doing what I do. I'd find it
Sure.
so much different outside. But again, I try not to retouch too much. This I feel like for this image, I felt like it needed that stylized, like almost like porcelain look on my
Yeah.
face. That's what I
Yeah.
felt like. So if I open the flowers, if we go back to the flowers, um, I wanted to show what the kind of thing that I did for uh some shadows. It's kind of the same thing as like Dodge and Burn, but let me just see where we are. Oh, wrong one. Flowers. So I've already gone in, as you can see, on my layers, on my very nicely color-coded layers.
Very, very
And
beautifully colored layers.
just for everyone out there, I don't usually do this. I just feel like this has been definitely for
You're
wives.
like cleaning up your house for guests to come
Yeah,
over.
that's what I felt like. But it makes so much sense to do it. And actually, I feel like I need to just going forward, I'm going to do this more
Sure.
often.
We
Um,
have one quick question from the
yeah,
chat. So Marcy wants to know, do you ever use the new face masking tools for the parts of the face?
do you know what? I haven't yet. I've not delved into it, but I think what it was because I was doing a lot of beauty work in the studio. So I do a lot of like client work as well in the studio. And I wanted to figure out how to properly retouch myself from, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to know like the mechanics of and the technical side of everything so that if I do the face filters, I'm not quite sure exactly what they do. So I haven't
Gotcha.
ventured into them yet. But I
Gotcha.
will probably after this have a look at them.
Cool.
So yeah, I will just go into this. So there's a little. This is called a marigold. I've even named all the flowers.
Look at you.
So if
The bar
anyone's
is
in,
set high.
yeah. So that's only today as well. So I better go and find out the names of these. I knew the names when I planted them, but it's been 6 months. So,
Yeah.
um, but this one here is obviously the red and white Fabuki. And then you've got this, these are marigolds, and I think these are edible flowers. But these are dahlias as well, and the globe thistle, which is I think one of my favorites because it's just so
So cool.
interesting.
I
And
feel
then
like I'm like
obviously,
looking at a like a Whoville flower or something out of the Grinch.
yes. Well, these actually grow really interestingly, just like in a massive bush. So you just see like loads of different like heads, and I just absolutely love the look of it.
Yeah, they're
Um,
beautiful.
and I think with these, so these flowers are like they grow in like multiples, so I don't feel as bad cutting them because I've always with like roses and sometimes like I don't know, sometimes cutting a plant makes me feel a bit like, oh no, it's dying.
Yeah.
But with these, they're so fast and so like they multiply. Um, so I've been just basically topping up my vase in my living room every week. Um, so yeah, this is the marigold, and these are actually because we're growing vegetables as well. They like deter all pests and things like that. So I quite liked the idea that they're in here. Um,
Mm.
so I popped this on my chin, and I quite liked it because it was upside down. I don't know why I felt like it worked there, but for some reason it did. So I think it might have been I don't know, the yellow tone next to the
Yeah.
orange, and then the yellows of like the insides of these ones.
Well, I feel like the shape too, like the contour of the flower
Yeah,
mixed with like the line of your hair just create this really
yes.
nice symmetry to it.
That's what I felt and exactly hit the nail on the head there. But I've added in a little bit of shading. So this is very quick today. Just gonna show how this works. Let me just find it. I think it's there. Yeah. So if I just take away the shading, that's obviously what it looks like. Yeah, so there's no shading there. And I will eventually, obviously after this live stream, will go in and shade every single one of these. So where, you know, these green bits, I'll probably put like a little, you know, just make sure that it's shadow so I can see, because I kind of like the idea that I want it to look like it's there but not. It's kind of just like a mixture of real and not.
Right.
So with this, I create a new layer and I pop it on overlay. So blend modes are just like, I use them all the time for shading. This is how I do mine. I don't know if there's any other ways, but it's just what I've done for all these years. And when I learned Photoshop, obviously everything's evolved and changed, but this is probably one of the first things that I learned how to do So I just pick up with the eyedropper, just like a color like nearby, maybe a darker one like that. And because of the marigold, sorry, the lighting, obviously with the orange top, you can see the orange underneath my chin. So I want a warmish color. So if I just put the marigold back so I can see, I just tend to take a soft round brush and just paste in. Again, I go overkill and then I bring it back just so I can see where I'm putting the line. I'm just making it smaller as I go along so I can.
With the trackpad still.
This is the trackpad. I don't
I'm
use
impressed.
the trackpad. I mean, I used to before I got the Wacom, but I've had this Wacom probably from the day that I started.
It's so much more useful.
So let me just.
And if you in the chat, if you're just joining us here, Holly is going through some of the blending modes to shade some of the shadows here on this beautiful self-portrait on a new series called Homegrown. If you have not checked out the early parts of the stream, it will be live on YouTube after the stream is over, and you absolutely should. It has been mind-blowing and beautiful, and the colors are stunning. So that's where we're at. Holly, you're looking at about like 40 minutes left, a little over 40 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to kind of keep you in check there. Great.
Yeah. So I think with what I do next, I think we'll do a bit more shading, and then I'm going to go and do some generative fill because I'm so excited to show. Like I've been using, like I said earlier, Gen Fill on pretty much all my work now. Whether that's like expanding the backgrounds or adding in, like I'll just show you again with this one. So these are all completely real in camera. I think this is the sunflower one actually. I did obviously edit some of it, but it's all taken in camera. This one here on the right with the yellow, if you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but some of them are real and some of them are generative fill. So
wow,
that's like, I quite like it excites me knowing that I could create it in my studio, but it's quite easy just to generative fill it.
Well, what's cool, I mean, I would never have guessed that. And I think what's really cool about the tool is everybody uses the tool differently. And for you, you're using it in a way that's just complementing the process that you already have. So
exactly.
You're not necessarily just being like, I'm just going to create everything with generative fill. You're using it to supplement what you've already created.
Exactly. And that's exactly how I went into like using the tool. I was very much like, I don't want it to take over anything that I'm doing. I just want it to add to, like, if I think, oh, I should have created, like, for example, in this, obviously the homegrown image, if I wanted, which I know when I was editing this yesterday and today, I was like, oh, it would be cool if there was some bugs in this somewhere. And I was like, right, okay, Gen Fill, easy, and it works. So, and otherwise I'd probably have to shoot that in the studio again. And again, with the whole watering can at the beginning, I'll just pop that back in so you can see for everyone. Oh, it's not that one, actually. That was another one. I was like, I love this idea and I think the concept works, but I just feel like I might need to reshoot that watering can. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't tried it. So
Yeah, yeah, in a
that's what I
way
love
too.
about it.
Yeah, it's like almost like serves as a storyboard too to expand your
Yes.
creativity even more. I mean, you could certainly have caterpillar crawling on your head if you really wanted to, but harder to come by. And if you can add it
Yes.
with generative fill, it makes your
Yeah.
life a lot easier.
I mean, some of the things that I've like tried, like I'll show you in a minute actually. I will just do a bit more shading and then in fact, I think we should just go onto the bugs. Let's go onto the bugs. um so yeah, in fact, no, stop. I will go back onto some shading. I get too carried away.
Get too
Um
excited.
this is where I need to, oh yeah, I have to control myself. Okay, so I tend to just go in. So obviously you can see there I've just added a bit of shading on there, but it doesn't look quite real on the marigold. So I'll go back in and just pop in some. I go on brightness and contrast quite a lot. I quite like to bring down the brightness and contrast, not on the whole thing. So I'll do um a mask and then paint it back in. So this is just to like blend the edge a bit, just so it sort of like forms into my face a bit more. And it's not as, I think I might actually go back into the marigold layer, just take off that like really harsh edge there.
So you're almost creating like fall off with that.
Yeah, with the it can't, yeah, the negative side of it,
Got it.
not adding to it, kind of
Right.
taken away. But I'll just again play around with that. But you can see there, it just adds that little bit of shade where it would be if it was naturally next to my face. It would have. I think I like to think of things like how would the shadow work on the face, like if I can't actually shoot it next to my face. Sometimes I shoot it next to my face. Like I've actually got a picture. I'll just show you here. So like here, I took in the studio, I naturally was like, right, I'll just see how the shadow works on my face within this light, what color it's creating. And so when I'm now editing it, so if I show you here, I can mimic that shadow back into Photoshop, but not be limited to having it in that place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a great idea. Very, and like just use it as your reference point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, a reference point. Um, but I think obviously doing this for so long, I kind of know where shadows might be. And like I think in fact, let me just go on. If I show you this image, this will probably show you what I mean by I go on self-portrait. So I shot this one on the banana. It's a very harsh shadow, and I think looking back now, I might not need to be too as harsh as that, but you can see that the shadow on the grass is harsh. So I'm kind of just like mimicking the shadow, if that makes sense.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Um, so yeah, let's go on to the bugs because I think that's what everyone wants to see. Well, I want to see anyway.
Yeah, we're here for the bugs. That's
So
it.
I'm going to go back to the almost final image. Again, I haven't finished this whatsoever. But because obviously you can see there's some mistakes on here and I just feel like I've not quite got there. But I'm going to take off the bugs one by one just so we can show you how I've done this.
Wow, you don't even realize how many bugs are in that until you close all the layers.
Yeah, so in fact, the first one that I did, so again, for those, obviously, probably everybody who's watching this has used Generative Fill. You circle an area in Photoshop beta, and you pop in your, in fact, let me just open that up. We can take it in. Let's go on stage. We'll open that one.
Holly, as this is loading, for
Yes.
those that are new to this format, if you would like to nominate yourself or be a guest on Adobe Live, submit your recommendations for the creative tab on Behance. As we mentioned before, we are a big community of like-minded creators and people who are sharing their wisdom and just skills like Holly is today in Photoshop. And if you think that you would be a great guest on Adobe Live, submit yourself. If you have other creatives, friends, colleagues out there, please submit them as well. We are always looking for just the best to come on here and teach us their ways. It's an amazing community. I am not a Photoshop person the way my wife is. I'm more of the video side of things, but I am a photographer. So learning from you has been pretty wonderful so far.
Thank you. I
Looks
just
like we're
love
having a
doing
little...
this. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening, but let me open a more basic image. It might just be that's it. It's just because it was just such a heavy file. So what you do, I'll just do it on this very basic image of me. If you circle an area and you click on Generative Fill, and then I'm going to put in B, just a basic one to start with, and then I'll switch back to my image and I can show you through there. In fact, it might be, yeah, we might not be able to flick through, but just because it's been a little bit slow.
There we go.
So obviously with this is trial and error with creating anything in Generative Fill. But I quite like that because it kind of gives me the excitement of like, oh, what's it going to create now? Is it going to look good?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to edit it again? Because a lot of the things I've obviously added in more shadows and things like that. And this is obviously too fake for what I like.
Isn't it nice when you just like nail one? It takes a couple times.
Yes,
like, that's the one.
That's literally it. So if I pop a circle on there, and if I go caterpillar.
Have you found there's any sort of like rhyme or reason to the selection that you make with the lasso tool? Like if you make a larger selection, it does a better job, or if it's smaller, like what have you kind of found in you trying
So
it?
with like, say, for example, I'm doing the bugs, I like to make sure it's in that area specifically. I don't want to, because of the, not destruction, but I suppose like it does do a little bit of, it changes the background as well, kind of like it will. Right. I don't know if you can see from there, it kind of adds in the hair again. If I just click through.
That first one actually fits pretty well.
Yeah. But then I'm thinking that might be a little bit too big. So what I would do is I'd just get rid of the file, the layer again, and I'd just do that again. So I'd keep that layer just for reference, but just do a bit of a smaller section and see what that does. But I've been using like different, like Ladybird I've used today. The only one that I've not found that it's worked well on doing is marching ants, which is funny because there's marching ants on the screen right now.
yeah, exactly. You would think.
So I'll see, that's better. That feels more.
Right.
I mean, that kind of matches the one that I've got already actually on the image. If I just pop them back on. Yeah, it kind of like. Right. But I'll just go through these ones. So in fact, I'll just show you Snail. That's the one that I was kind of looking at earlier. I'm not sure if it's a bit too distracting, but I don't know. I might take off the little, because I put like a hairy caterpillar on the orange because I wanted just something like just delicate on there. And the snail, I don't know.
I love the snail. I feel like he's like your little buddy up there on your shoulder. Yeah. The caterpillar on the shirt, it might be a little, I don't know, they both look really cool. Yeah,
I think it's a case of just trial and error in it. But I kind of like with this, obviously the spider web here, I actually popped the spider in. This for me is a little bit too fake, but I think because I've only just done this today, I might go back in and shade it a bit, make it a bit more realistic as much as you can. I wish I could flick through, but obviously with the beta not being quick enough in opening, I can't flick through the Generative Fill options.
So when you're when you're inputting the like keywords for the bugs that you're looking for, is it better to keep it simple? Because I know like in Midjourney, the more detail you give the engine, the system, the better it is. With generative fill,
Yes.
is it like the simpler the better?
I found that I've literally just put, like, for Ladybird, I put Ladybird. And then for bee, and which I think this is my favorite because I just think it looks so
Oh, it looks
realistic.
awesome. Yeah, it's
Let me just
perfect.
pop it on and off just to show. Like, it changes the flower slightly, but I'm okay with that because the bee looks so good.
And I
Um,
guess if you really wanted to preserve some of the flower in the background, like you could always add a mask and then paint out
yeah,
that part of it.
yeah, exactly. In fact, I think there might be a bug there already on that, and that's a real one.
Wow.
And then like this one here, I just popped in bug. I ran out of bugs to name, so I was like bug.
Looks
And I
like a
think,
stink bug.
yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, so that was the last one I did, and I quite liked it, so I went with that. And then there was, yeah, spider web. Obviously, I popped the spider there, and I thought there's not, when a spider's around, they're not far from a spider web, and I quite liked the idea of popping, obviously, with the leaves. You usually see in the garden spider webs on the leaves, so I was like, right, I'll
Yep.
just pop that in. This one took me about 10 attempts to do. I wish I could just go through them, but I don't know if I can. Let me just have a look. Let's see if I can open it, because it would just be so good to see.
Again, I'm gonna just like remind everyone in the chat, and everyone is loving what you're doing so far, by the way. It's
Oh,
just, it
thank
looks
you.
incredible. But the knowing the reality of gardening and flowers and having all of that passion already, like you know where the spider webs would be. So you have this realistic like context that you can take to apply it to generative fill, rather than
Yes,
just showing up and typing this in and placing it somewhere that doesn't actually make sense, so that the viewer
yes,
looks at this and thinks, oh, okay, well, there's a spider in her hair.
exactly. And I think with the bee, going back to that one, I mean, I've been out there every single day this summer, and there's
Yeah.
always bees landing right in the middle of there. And I just think, obviously, it's quite obvious with it being on a flower, but it just gave me that, like, oh, they've nailed that. That feels realistic. With this bug, I'm not quite sure what kind of bug this would be, the green one.
Yeah.
But again, I quite like how it feels like it's in, like its legs are inside the flower. But
So
yeah,
if you turn that on and off, how much of
yes.
the thistle did they actually have to remake?
I can't remember what book that one. Yeah, so it
Wow.
actually made it
Oh my
really
goodness.
well. Yeah,
It's
I
incredible.
it you couldn't. It looks so realistic. I could go on about this all day.
Yeah.
um, So with, oh, have we got it open? Yes, we have. Right, I'm going to put the bugs back on, and I'm just going to switch through. I mean, I know people are here to see how I do things, but I just feel like this is really interesting to see. Um, so if I go to let's go to the bumblebee first. So that was the one that I settled on, and then there was that one
Oh,
which was also very good, and that one which was also good. But I felt like that one felt the most realistic. With the spider web, again, I just circled, I'll just pop it on and off so you can see. It did add in an extra bit of leaf.
oh wow.
Um, but it really didn't, it nailed it. Oh, I think I did it
Yeah.
8 times or 9 times. Oh no, yeah, three, six, like, yeah.
That is
And
incredible too.
this one added in a bit of like giant spiders.
Yeah. Scary spiders.
Like,
Oh my
but the one that
goodness.
I settled on again is, I think I put, oh yeah, here we go. I put
Oh,
in
that's cool.
a picture perfect spider web, because at first it was putting in, well, it was just putting those big spiders there. So I was like, a picture perfect. Imagine, like, I wasn't even really sure why I said picture perfect. I was just a bit more like, imagine like a perfect spider web with rain droplets on it. Like, I'm describing it and visioning it, and then it just sort of it worked, but it's not the
Yeah.
picture perfect one that I was thinking of. I think this one I popped in, I literally just put spiderweb. So that was the best one. I think I might have to edit like this bit here, but I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty incredible how again, like with trial and error, you'll eventually find I think what you're looking for if you give it different prompts, which you've done here. But the fact that
Yeah.
sometimes it gives you something you didn't even realize that's what your mind wanted, and then you see it
Yes.
and you're like, "Oh, that's what I wanted."
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you,
exactly.
technology. Thank you,
Yeah.
Photoshop.
And that's why I love going back to obviously doing things fast. The amount of things that I would have been able to do if I was doing
Oh my
with my
goodness.
7 day self portrait challenge. I was doing, I don't know if I've got any pictures, but I edited in like slugs. I don't know if it's on here. Um,
Wow.
I'm not sure if it's on here. I don't know. Like these bats. I mean, took each individual photo. Obviously, what I could have done with Generative Fill then. That was probably
Oh
about
yeah.
10 years ago now.
Oh,
Um,
so cool.
so I don't know if I've got, yeah, the slug one, but I did a slug one. So all I can think of now when I've been editing this today, I was thinking how good that slug would look. In fact, we probably could try it. Let's see. Maybe we pop a.
Yeah, what other
So I
insects?
just do,
Yes, we don't have a
yeah.
slug.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. Let's do one.
Arabella is here. Lisa's here. Robert, everyone is loving
Hi.
this. Arabella says your Holly work is unmatched. Oh my God, I
Oh,
agree.
thank you. So I've just popped in slug or oh, I've got slugs. I got carried away, so it might do more than one.
It's like the suspense of waiting for
I
what is
know.
this going to give me? I'm so excited.
So I've just upgraded to the oh
They're so funny
oh
looking.
wow.
That one's not bad.
Yeah. It's a little bit dark, but then
Yeah.
it's got like that orange tone to it. So obviously it's taken I think this is why I'm so like in awe of everything that I'm doing with the generative fill because I'm just like, wow, how does it know?
That blows me away. Is some of them I will say they get very wrong, and a lot of that is
Yes.
just makes it like either the selection's too big or it just doesn't
Yeah.
have enough to go off of. But it's continuing to get better, and I feel, my wife Anna's been using it now,
Yes.
quite a bit for the Max demo, and it's something that I think is going to continue to be a big like part of everyone's toolkit and used in different ways. And it's so interesting to see the way that
Definitely.
you're using generative fill versus like the way that she's been using it. So, and even the way that I've kind of
Yeah.
dabbled in it as well.
I've kept up to date with what Anna's doing, and I saw when she's like expanded the frame layer. I
Yeah,
just
like
thought
like a
that's just
forever frame.
crazy. Yeah, and then she did. I don't know, was one today. There's a few that I've seen. I'm just like, wow, it's actually crazy. But that's what I just popped ants in just to see, and selected an area, and I thought this would work so well, and it hasn't. Like it literally has done nothing.
Weird. Yeah.
So I just don't know. And then I went onto Firefly desktop, the website version, just to see, and it wouldn't get marching ants there.
Huh.
So yeah, it's just sort of maybe it will discover how to do that.
I would love
Um,
to. It's to see some marching ants is such a little like subtle hint to the amount of work that you've used marching ants to actually put
yes,
actual marching ants into the photo.
I know. I kind of just thought with it was before the snail and the black caterpillar, that one. I just thought, how cool would it look with marching ants just like across there or something, just to like bring something down here. But
Yeah.
I ended up just sort of settling on, well, we'll just pop them in for now. Um, so yeah, what else? So the color. So I don't know how long we've got left actually. How long we got
You
left?
got about 20 minutes exactly right now.
Oh, all right, perfect. Okay, so I have actually, obviously, with my lovely colourful layers, edited sort of the colour a little bit. And I've actually got Lightroom open here. So That just
As we're
popped up.
talking about color, real quick,
Yeah.
Holly, as a person who clearly loves color, which is
Yes.
amazing, what is your favorite color? I'm just curious because you have a lot of them in here.
Oh, I don't know. I think at the moment I'm pink, but I don't know if it's because of the Barbie. But I've always
Amazing.
been. I don't know. I go through stages. I think like at the moment I love orange. We've just got an orange sofa recently. We just bought a new orange sofa. So I go through. It's weird. I don't know if it's because I'm doing the color projects and I'm constantly focusing on different colors, but I just go through stages where I wear more of one color, and it usually coincides with like the blue project. I wore more blue. I
That's
think
cool.
it, yeah. And but it's because my work always kind of was quite dark and like muted tones. And then as soon as I got in the studio, it was almost like just the big color splash. I was like, I can do whatever I want with whatever color I want. And so
Yeah.
I had so like full control of it. And I did like a 7 day self-portrait challenge, rainbow themed. And so every single day was a different color. And that's what set me off. I was like, I can use color. I don't know if I was a bit scared of using it before, but it just feels like, I don't know, with like obviously I'm using it, me using self-portraiture for like therapy a little bit and mental health. I was a bit like, and I was getting better mentally. I don't know. I was kind of like had this like almost like open a new world for me. So
I love that. I love that.
um
We do have
yeah.
a note from Marcy if you want to try before you get into color.
Yes.
A prompt that she said works
Oh
for
yes.
type in a line of ants head to tail.
Oh
And
my god, this is right.
apparently it worked, but it needs some refining.
Okay, let's just do a small, I don't know. I've got again trackpad, so
Let's see.
a line of ants. Is that what
Head
you
to
said?
tail.
Head to tail.
All right, Marcy, let's see. This is this is real world testing here on Adobe Live.
Oh, fingers crossed. Because I did a photo a few weeks ago with ants, and this is when I really started like, oh,
Whoa. Oh my
that
goodness.
didn't work.
What is that? What is that?
I
Oh,
don't know.
I don't know
It's just
what
like a
that is.
hole.
It looks like you just have some sort of stain on your shirt all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That is weird.
It's kind of mimicking the caterpillar a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like trying. I mean, the ant saga continues, but
Yeah. So if anyone manages to do it with a prompt, let me message me because I am dying to know. The image I did, I think a few, in fact, let me just show you, see if I've got it on here. I think it's this one, the pink one. I don't know if you can see, but there's tiny little ants and they're all generative
yeah.
fill.
Oh
So
wow.
an individual ants, it works perfect. So I probably would have to just go in individually, but again, each ant was very different and some had like 8 legs, some had 3 legs. So I was, from far away, you can't really tell because they're tiny. So but I
Holly,
probably just have to go in.
do you do any work for like production clients for like movie posters or TV posters? I feel like you have such a distinct look that could be used for that.
I would love to do that. I've done lots of like band like artworks and yeah, just things like brand work, things like that, but nothing for movie. I would love to do that. Would be actually my dream. Something like I'd love to edit for like, I don't know, a Netflix.
Yeah.
Like imagine seeing it on the banner. I'd love that. That would be, if anyone's out there who needs.
Yeah. We heard it here first. This is where we're going to
Yeah.
start that dream because
I'm
you
just putting
have
it out there.
it's going out there. I was the one that of you with the flowers reminded me of this show that I used to watch on Showtime called the oh my god, it's like the life of Tara or something. It's a show about like multiple personality disorders
Oh
and
yeah, I think I might have heard of that. I don't think I've seen
I,
it, but
but it
nice.
has a very like stylized theme, and that specific self portrait you have reminded me of that. And so yes,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that's the dream,
Yes,
go
I
for it.
would
You
love
have
to. Yeah,
amazing work.
when I was, because I went to university, I graduated in 2015, so quite a while ago now. When I came out, I did quite a lot of so I shot behind the scenes on adverts for a little while, and I was like, oh, I would love to do like a movie poster or like just an advert poster or anything like something like that. Just to see it on like a big billboard would be unreal. That would just be my dream. So, but yeah, so we're going back to, so color. This actually won't take too long, but I'm just going to use the one that I've got in here already. So I usually have presets that are preloaded from usually the past like 10 artworks. Because I change it so often, I like save it. So like here, I've got like the blue project. Doesn't quite work for colors because it kind of changes the colors too much. The pink project, and then the yellow project. I think I've got the green one somewhere. It might be in some folder. But anyway, the one that I think I chose was, if I just go down and have a look. Because I've made I use a yellow project preset. And it was there we go. So colors wise, I try and keep the same colors, and I've been tending to not edit too much on colors because I like to see the exact colors of what it's shooting as. So I'm trying to like match it from like a before and after on Lightroom. And green.
So you'll always take your final finished in Photoshop and then you bring it over in Lightroom and you do all your edits here.
So I don't know if I don't know if I'm the only one who does this in the world, but I take my edit. So I'll edit it in Lightroom like I am doing now, and then I'll export it. So if I just go back into Photoshop, I'll export it. If I just take off these layers, so this is my color layer. I've just made this just to see what it looked like. So if I just put this on normal and I'd put the 100%. So that's what I tend to bring it back on top as a layer. I don't know why I've done this, but I feel like I have control of them because I originally started editing color in Photoshop, and then obviously I migrated to Lightroom preset wise. But it's just a step that I do. I'll go take it into Lightroom and then bring it back. But with this one in particular, I decided, because obviously the color, it's washed me out way too much. And obviously I'm very bright in the face now. The highlights are too much. So I'll take this down to about 20%. I mean, the snail's come back now. Let me take the snail off because he wasn't there in that one.
Our little buddy snail.
I know.
That's a very interesting method. I've never really, because normally I know people that will like create a camera raw smart object or something inside of Photoshop and finish everything there, or finish it in Lightroom. So you go into Lightroom, create your color, then you bring that back as like a reference layer. Okay.
Yes. Cool. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a few different. So if I go and do another preset, let's just pick a random one. So let's say I pick that one. I'll then export that and then bring it into, use unique names, and then I'll take it into Photoshop. So it's there, I think. It's on that one. That one. And I'll open that one.
Okay.
It's probably quite a long-winded way of doing this, but it's just something that I've done. I don't know how it came about.
Yeah, it's an interesting, again, it's like an interesting way, and it's all part of your creative process and how you feel like you can create the best work. So
I then, as well, I don't know if it's because Lightroom has a different, I can see the before and after, and I mean, you can obviously change it so you don't have to see it. I feel like I just haven't got as much control as I have in Photoshop, because I originally started color editing in Photoshop. So I like to see which preset is looking the best. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Sure.
But essentially just lay them on top of each other and and take the opacity down. But I'll just get rid of that layer because I've actually I was quite happy with this color. With this one, I decided to put a blend mode of overlay onto it just to add like extra like punch. Like it just felt like it needed a bit more like depth. So then I did the color balance, which I actually usually, I upped the reds. If I just pop that actually on, and then put the yellows on a little bit more on the shadows. And then I was like, it's a little bit too warm now. If I just zoom in a bit more. But as you can see, if I just do before and after, it's getting that more like rich tone, which I want for this image, because I feel like all the tones of the flowers, I wanted it to, be a lot richer. So with I tend to, like I've done earlier, but I do tend to layer, like with the dodge and the burn, I'll layer dodge and burn layers, and then I'll color balance on one layer, and then I'll add another layer of color balance and go in with that and do like the mid-tones. I just feel like I get more control, so I can turn the opacity down, and then it's not turning the whole thing down.
Right.
So with that one, you can see I just put in some more of the blue in the mid-tones and a bit more, again, I upped the blue to +5 there. So it just takes the tone of the image a little bit less warm, but still keeps it warm in the shadows. Then I think on this one, I'm not even sure if you'll be able to see this because of the brightness of my screen, but I decided that this area here was a little bit too dark. And I think that's because of the Generative Fill background earlier. It kind of obviously mimicked like a shadowy area. So I just went in and you'll probably not be able to see this.
Yeah, it's subtle, but
So I kind of just pasted in. So I got a brush tool and just pasted in with the color, just picked up a color from over here. And I'll just do another layer. And I just pasted in just the tone of the other side of the image over here. And then I turn the opacity down a little bit just to balance it out, because it felt like it was too dark on this side. But again, I'll probably with me doing like the frequency separation, the retouching, I'd then probably go in with my eyes and probably finish off eyes after. Maybe. Depends how I feel. But I actually ended up adding in some lips. Oh, there we go. I edited the eyes and added in some. And I wasn't too sure about this. I actually did I did some maroon colored lips and some orange lips.
And this was through Generative Fill, or this was you painted?
No, so I'll show actually if we've got time just to do it very quickly. I added a new layer, and then I picked up, I'll do the maroon color because it's just here. So if I just pick up that color, and again, I'm working on a trackpad, so this is going to look very disjointed. So if I just do this very quickly.
I think it's kind of cool that you work in a way though that's like go to the extreme and then tone it down with all of your layers. I find, I don't know, like that's kind of how Anna works, and I get scared of doing that. I don't know why, because I'm like, I need it to be perfect the whole way.
Perfect, and straight away, yeah.
I love seeing your process, it's just the opposite.
I can totally understand that, because you feel like you want it to like nail it straight away, and I totally, sure. I've definitely done that in the past, but more recently, again, just with, I mean, that looks crazy.
This is dark, Holly.
Yeah, so if I usually just take it to an overlay first. Cool. So, I mean, that's not too bad. It would need cleaning up. But then I'll duplicate that layer and pop either like, see how far is it. In fact, I'll just turn the opacity down on that, because I don't think it needs to be that dark. So I just go through the blend modes and just see which one works the best. Usually soft light. Yeah, that's like one of my favorites. Overlay and soft light are like my go-tos. So yeah, it's a pretty simple way of doing it. And then what I would do, again, with, like I said earlier about the retouching, I'd do the highlights right at the end. That'd be the very, like you can see here, I would highlight it right at the end so that it would pick up on top of here. Let's see if it works actually.
So you do that even after you do any of your color adjustments.
Yeah, I
That's like the
think that's
final.
the final touch. I mean, you can see how much that's picking it up, but I quite like to
Wow.
see where it is. I mean, that's way too much. But again, I'd probably go into the lips if I just put on the other layer so I can see.
Yeah, Cody
so
Cody likes the dark lip color. I agree. I think it just gives it that like extra
yeah,
pop too.
I was gonna ask to see what everyone thought because the orange, I don't know, it was a bit softer, but I just thought it matches the background and the purples of the other flowers. But yeah, I would go in with a dodge. So if I just pop dodge and burn, I just usually just get rid of those layers. And I mean, this is very rough, but just add a bit of highlight.
Marcy also had some more insight into the prompts. I think she was wanting to maybe message them to you because that's something
Oh
that she
yes,
can send through
definitely.
Instagram
Yes.
or
Yes, Instagram. Just message me on Instagram because I would love to know. I spent about half an hour doing it today. I was like,
perfect.
I can't. I need to stop now.
Yeah. Is the answer not working?
Yeah.
And now I know we have a couple minutes left, but I
Yeah.
know eyes are like a whole nother thing. But
Just briefly, what I've
just briefly,
sort of
like what
done. Yeah.
would you do kind of if you were going to touch your eyes as well?
So I tend to kind of edit out again with me wanting to be a bit more of a porcelain doll look on this one. I want to edit out the veins, that's the word. But today I didn't because I was just like, I don't know if I quite like the veins. I don't know. I think it's probably a like very end touch up. But with the magic, so I use the Retouching Academy glowing, so magic eyes. So I just click on that. But essentially it's just a dodge layer, essentially.
To the iris and to the pupil,
Yes.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, so if I'll just get rid of that. You can clean the whites on this one, but I don't really like that one as much. But essentially I'll just do an extra layer. I'll turn that one off. If I go in, I sometimes do it this way where I'll just pop on white. Oh, we are turned off on that layer. Oh, I can't see. There we go. Oops, that's not the way that did it. Right, so if I sometimes just pop on a white layer and then
Gotcha.
I'll overlay it, and that just brings out the
Cool.
colors
Yeah.
just a little bit. I
Yeah.
kind of don't like to bring it out too much, but sometimes, especially with my color project ones, I've been changing the colors to match the color of the project. So like the green, I've got green eyes, and but with this one, I think because the tones of my eyes actually I think it matches the colors of
Oh, it's
the
beautiful.
image. So
Man.
And I know, yeah, I've definitely got a lazy eye there, but that's just me being picky. I quite like that because it looks like it's poking me in the eye.
Yeah, a little bit. And the right eye, right? Yeah, your right eye looks subtle enough, but it like pops and just everything has come together so beautifully. I'm so excited to see.
Watering can
The
just for
water can.
effect.
It looks
I'm not sure
amazing.
about that, but it was just something I was playing with, so we'll see. I might go and reshoot the watering can.
Well, we'll definitely all have to check out once the finish final. I know it's so
Yes.
close, but I'm sure you have some work that you wanted to work on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
definitely.
we're just about out of time, Holly. I wish we could talk generative
Me
fill and Photoshop all day.
too.
This was a blast. Thank
So
you
good.
again for
Thank
coming on
you.
Adobe Live. I think everybody had a treat learning from you. Your work is absolutely stunning.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
teaching me, and thank you to those in the chat that have stuck around today. Marcy, thank you for your tips on ants.
Yes.
Robert, Lisa, Josh, everyone. It's always appreciated to have such a strong community here. And if you are staying on Behance, make sure to join Andrew Hawk-Roddle as he uses Adobe Lightroom to transform some mobile photos into studio quality content to post on social media, coming right up next. So Holly, thanks again. Thank you
Thank you
to
so much for
those
having me.
that have tuned in, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye.